Minnesota Vikings injury news is what's on tap on today's show. Welcome to the Vikings Now. My name is Patrick Seatman. Doing a little at-home video on this beautiful Saturday morning because we got some injury news that we need to break down, mainly around James Lynch as he was ruled out for the year with a torn ACL, and then Andrew Booth Jr., Jalen Nailor, Trishton Jackson, and Brian O'Neill. I'll be diving into each and every one of those guys and just kind of explaining to you guys what their injury is and how it will, eventually impact the Minnesota Vikings. They do have practice later on today. I'm recording this Saturday morning, so we could get some more updates there. I'm just going based off the most recent Minnesota Vikings night practice that took place Thursday night. So it is Saturday morning. We do have some injury news around a couple of the guys, but overall actually pretty healthy throughout training camp so far. I feel like it's always kind of one of those things where you hope you get through training camp preseason with no injuries, and then week one, you're fully ready to go. But, obviously the injury bug can hit any single team. So we'll be diving into that in a second. But guys, as always, hit that subscribe. And we got football just around the corner. We just had the first preseason game on Thursday, and it's absolutely nuts that football is back. So we're going to be going live here on the channel Thursday night against the Seattle Seahawks in the Vikings' first ever preseason game. So if you guys want to help me out and just make me, honestly, just make me look good for my bosses, frankly, hit that subscribe button, lock us in. Anything around the Minnesota Vikings, and I mean anything, we will have a video for you guys. We're trying to put out a video every single day. And if you guys want to show our bosses what Vikings fans are about, hit that subscribe button, lock us in. But let's start off with James Lynch, as that was the biggest, that was probably the biggest news that kind of broke out. And it's a heartbreaker. James Lynch tore his ACL at practice Thursday night. This was according to TomPelissero. And it looks to be obviously it's not a big blow to the Vikings defensive line unit, but you're losing a rotational piece who, I thought he would not, maybe take a breakout season, but I thought he would be a contributor to a Vikings defensive line that definitely needs it. Now I kind of started thinking, could the Vikings bring in another guy? Could they sign somebody else to fill that roster spot? What about a little Linval Joseph? Big Hungry. What if he comes back to Minnesota? We obviously know how big of a fan he was just overall with his fan of his time overall in Minnesota. Maybe Big Hungry's sitting out there with spending last year in Philadelphia. Maybe he's saying, let me go play back for the purple and gold. So that's maybe a guy to keep your eyes out on. But this is just more unfortunate news for James Lynch. I loved him coming out of Baylor. He was a great dude at getting interior pressure. Or getting pressure from the interior as a defensive lineman. I thought he, kind of had some flashes last season, but overall, I just feel for the guy. I mean, anytime you tear your ACL right before the season starts, especially when he's trying to get paid, it just sucks. So James Lynch, torn ACL, that just it's an unfortunate thing. But moving on to Brian O'Neill, no real injury update here, but obviously coming off of the torn Achilles, I thought he would be out for a way longer, but he was in full pads for the first time at Vikings night practice, but he did not participate in team drills. But still, I think this is a step in the right direction. Because I think we noticed, even though Oliuta stepped in and did a fine job filling in last season for O'Neill, I think having him back is so key. I mean, having your right tackle, having your guy, obviously it's not Kirk's blind spot, but we know how important tackles are. And especially if you have, an immobile quarterback like Kirk Cousins, you obviously want to protect him. So, Brian O'Neill being back, that's a huge addition to this team. I'm going to be curious to see if he plays at all during the preseason. I would maybe get him a drive before you go against Tampa, because obviously with Tampa, they don't have Brady anymore, but they still have a tremendous front seven. So that Vikings offensive line unit's going to need to be clicking. But we'll see if O'Neill plays during the preseason. But he was back. He just didn't participate in team drills. Trishton Jackson, we kind of already all know the story about him. It's his knee, and he wasn't present at the Vikings night practice. Not really going to be likely that he makes the roster. I just think this Vikings wide receiver core, it's a tough unit to crack, because obviously, Jefferson's taking up a spot. KJ's taking up a spot. Addison's taking up a spot. Honestly, Jalen Nailor's probably taking up a spot as well. Then it comes down to guys like Rager, Trishton Jackson, Pohl, a bunch of guys to kind of get that last spot or two, depending on how many receivers they take. I do actually only expect them to take 5 this season. Maybe they'll go an extra tight end and running back is my prediction in terms of skill positions and where they kind of want to, consolidate assets. So Trishton Jackson, knee was not present. He had a good start to camp, but so this is just kind of unfortunate. for the kid. And then another wide receiver who I just mentioned, Jalen Nailor, he hurt his leg and he was not present as well. Nailor's had a great camp though. Like every report that's came out around Vikings training camp, like anytime like it's like a takeaway segment or like, you know, whatever rumor or news roundup, like everybody says Jalen Nailor absolutely balls out. Speedy guy. Again, he's one of those guys I kind of feel for because maybe if he was on a different team in the NFL, he could have already been a wide receiver 3 and getting solid reps. But, you know, obviously you got the big 3 right now in Jefferson, Addison, and Osborn. So Nailor, it's tough for him to crack it. Maybe when the Vikings go 4 wide receiver sets, very unlikely, it's not like, or not likely, it's not often, excuse me. It's early morning, guys. Give me a break. It's not often that the Vikings go on the 4 wide receiver sets, but, you know, maybe he will be that 4th wide receiver instead of Rager this year when they do go to that. The biggest injury news, though, that is kind of still a mystery is Andrew Booth Jr. He was not present at the Vikings night practice, and it's kind of unknown. So, you know, another reason to hit that subscribe button. If we get a Booth update, you know, I'll make sure to get you guys a video ASAP or just something to keep you guys informed. But that was a little weird. Booth not being there. He obviously went out of practice Wednesday, so then he wasn't there on Thursday for that night practice. But I think he's missing valuable time. I think this Vikings cornerback room, you know, competition's heating up. Like the only dude that I think is guaranteed playing time week 1 against Tampa is probably Byron Murphy, just because he's the vet of the room and he's only 26 years old. But then in terms of the cornerback 2, 3, 4, 5 spots, like, you know, you got Booth, Evans, Joanne Williams, you know, Tay Gowan, Kalen Barnes, you know, Mekhi Blackman. Like, you can go any certain way with either of those guys. Like, I think all of those guys have a right to play, so and a chance to play, frankly. So Booth missing this time, you know, sucks for him. Hopefully he's all good. You know, obviously dealt with injuries all last season. I just want to see what the Vikings have out of him because, you know, that injury bug with him and Evans really seems to be affecting them. But that's the injury roundup for today. We got some injury news on James Lynch. He is out for the season with a torn ACL, so shout out thoughts and prayers up to him. Hopefully he can have a speedy recovery. Brian O'Neill, he was in full pads for the first time on Thursday at that night practice, but he did not participate in team drills. Trishton Jackson was not present for the Thursday night practice with a knee, and then Jalen Nailor was also not present with a leg injury, and then also Andrew Booth with unknown as the injury that he had, why he wasn't present at the night practice as well. But guys, football season just around the corner. I'm actually so fired up for this. Like, you know, the fan is starting to come out of me again. You know, I feel like we kind of forget how exciting football is in the summer. Like, I wasn't like, you know, dying to get back to the preseason. I was like, oh, it's preseason. Who really cares? But football's back, and it feels like it. So I'm fired up. Hopefully you guys are fired up as well. You know, it really helps a lot here if you guys hit that like button on today's video and just comment down below your thoughts on the Vikings, you know, recent injury news here. And then also, guys, hit that subscribe button. You know, stay locked into anything around the Minnesota Vikings. I want to be your go-to guy. Anything that comes out, we'll have a video for you guys ASAP. Even if it's just minuscule injury news like this coming from Thursday's night practice. But we see you guys next time. They practice today, so if anything big comes out around the Vikings, I'll have a video for you guys. But see you guys next time. Skol Vikes.